So how do you play the Great Commission strategic card game? First of all, I'll tell you about the cards. There's the world deck, and in there you've got people and activities. The people have 2 stats, which is faith and wisdom, and they've got a special ability. The activity cards can go into your hand and can get played at any time, and they've also got a special ability. There's leader cards as well, so they're like a normal person. You choose them at the beginning of the game. They can be apostles, disciples, or other famous personalities from the scriptures. Next, you've got the heaven deck. It includes 3 types of heavenly activity. The first is a blessing that goes into your hand and you can play it later. Another is a spiritual gift that goes onto a person and they can use it with their other abilities. And lastly is a divine intervention. And this is something that's normally massive, game-changing, and quite a big deal. Next, you've got the troubles deck. Every round, a trouble comes into your church, as well as if you bring in lots of people, they bring in troubles into your church as well. And the trouble cards give you like challenges, or they kill your members, or they restrict you in some way. There's also locations such as Corinth, Ephesus, Jerusalem, Rome, etc., where you get to place your church, and these give you a different condition on your church as well at the start. Lastly, we've got events. So every round an event comes out, and generally they're quite significant. So they could, again, kill your members with persecution, or they could be a good one that gives you blessings or extra members and things like that. So every round something significant happens at the beginning of your go. There are 3 phases to each of the rounds. First is the event phase, where that event phase card comes out. Next, you ready your leader. He gets to come back available for free, and you get to recover a number of recovery points equal to the health of your church. Then you also bring in a trouble. So every round, as time goes on, the trouble in your church increases and gives you something to deal with. After the events phase is the action phase, and you get a few different choices. As well as the special abilities on your cards that you get to play for free, there's outreach. You get together a group of cards up to 3, and you compare their faith rating with the cards that you draw from the world deck. This is where risk comes in. How many cards will I pull based on the number I'm comparing from my faith against the resistance which is written on each of the cards that come up. So depending on what team you put together and what risk you're willing to take, you could get a bunch of people from the world deck, but if you get too many, you've got 2 problems. You could go bust and basically not receive them, or you could bring them in, and then for every 6 points of their resistance, you gain an extra trouble card. Next is discernment. When you've brought troubles into the church, they're face down, you don't know what the problems are. You use discernment actions to reveal what the problem is. Next, once they're revealed, you can use intercession. Intercession is used to get rid of those problems. So if it's a spiritual problem, it might use faith. If it's a difficult sin problem, it might require lots of wisdom. And you put a little team together that can deal with that. You can use pray. Pray action brings your spiritual health of your church back, and also gives you one of those powerful heaven cards. Recovery is what you use, so you'll be using people for stuff like missions and intercessions. That's going to make them like tapped. They are unavailable. Recovery brings them back to being available again. And lastly, there's commission. When you're playing a multiplayer game and you're cooperating, you can send 3 of your guys over to a different church. So for example, that church is suffering with lots and lots of sin. I'm going to send some guys over with lots of wisdom or special abilities that get to deal with that, and that can help that person. And then later in the game, I might be suffering because we don't have enough members, and they just send some people over so that we've got people to do outreach with and things like that. So that is the action phase. Lastly is the troubles phase. And when the trouble phase, every face down card you've got that's a trouble, so you've brought them in through evangelism, you've brought them in over time, they hurt you. That's unresolved sin in the church, and it affects the spiritual health of your church. So 2 points of spiritual damage out of your 10 that you start with. Then if they're face up, they don't do that to you, but what they do is their effect. And so it'd be like there's sin in the church, so people are, so there's one that's racism, for example, certain people groups can't work together on mission, or there's pride, or there's adultery, which ruins things, and there's all these different cards which do different effects, and each one has like a special power which attacks your church in some way. It might kill people, or disable people, or stop you doing things. So sometimes some of them stop you doing outreach, for example. Okay, so how do you win? The way you win is to get all the cards from the world deck through outreach action, and if you do that before the events run out, you win the game. So of course you lose the game if all the events are revealed before you get to that point, and the other way you lose is if any one of the churches playing, their spiritual health goes to 0, that church has died, the spirit has left that church, and effectively the game is over. So to win, get to the bottom of the world deck. To lose, run out of time, or one of the churches dies. So that's how you win and lose. So I hope you enjoy playing the Great Commission strategic card game.